joining us this evening. Regular scheduled council meeting of the Park City City Council on September 24th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Dee, would you call the roll?
Gentleman here.
Here.
George Glover.
Here.
Ben Salcetta. Melvin Kerr.
Here.
Tom Jones.
Here.
George Capps.
Here.
Brandy Bailey.
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have quorum.
Thank you. This evening, Pastor Bob Darnell is going to lead us in invocation, and Councilmember George Glover is going to lead in the pledge. If everybody please stand.
Almighty God, as you look down upon our lives and the needs of people, Lord, we want to say to you, thank you, God. Lord, bless this solemn assembly, man, of men and women, Lord, that have gathered here. Lord, that are weighing the matters of the day. Lord, our officials, Lord, over this city, Lord, bless their lives, God. Lord, as they lay their hands, Lord, to the plow, Lord, I pray, Father, Lord, give them, Lord, peace in their life. And Lord, as these men and women, Lord, make decisions, Father, Lord, give them wisdom that you give us through your love, your peace, and your guidance. And bless this assembly, Lord. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Jim?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
And George?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. We don't have anything for awards or presentations, and nobody's signed up for public forum this evening, so we'll move on to staff reports.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have several items to update you on tonight. First, and what I think most residents would be concerned with, is that over the last 36 hours, we've had 2 water main breaks within the community. The first was a 12-inch water main break on the north side of 61st Street, just west of Broadway. It primarily affected 3 commercial businesses, and no residential homes were affected. That water main break was fixed earlier this afternoon about 4:30. The second was a break in a cross-section connection between a 4-inch line, a 6-inch line, and 2 8-inch lines at the intersection of Millsboro, Randall, and Denver, affecting residents east along Denver and then on Long Hydraulic. Because it was a multi-size cross-connection, something that is not normally held in stock, the part had to come from Salina, and Public Works is currently in the process of getting it repaired at this time. The estimated time that it'll be up and running again is around 10 o'clock this evening. So, the second update is on 61st Street Bridge construction. On October 8th, they will be ready to set the beams on the south side of the bridge that they've been working on. And although we had always expected that there would be 2-way traffic throughout the entire build cycle, it appears that it will be safer and more efficient for both the contractors as well as the public if they were to close the eastbound traffic for about a 5-hour period on both October 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. So 3 days in a row. And I told them that our number one concern would be make certain that we get the word out in plenty of time so we can put it on Facebook, website, as well as get notification boards out there. But most people should expect that to happen on the 8th, 9th, and 10th. The approximate times would be about 8:30 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. If they can shorten it up, they hope to get it done by noon each day, but we're planning on about 5.5 hours. Third, the city received our draft consolidated code back from Ransom Legal earlier this week. Staff will be reviewing it over the next couple weeks with the intention of bringing it before council sometime probably the first or second meeting in November, and that would be for final codification adoption of the code itself. Fourth, today was reveal day for the city's new website. Sounds great, but it's internal day for us as far as staff. For the next 30 days, we get the site that is complete for us to go ahead and update the content and make certain that the functionality of the website is working, all the links are correct. And so then our plan is for that to go public to the community around November 1st. A couple upcoming calendar events to brief you on. First of all is at the end of the month, September 28th. That is the date for the citywide garage sale. October 5th is our brush and limb cleanup day at Hap McLean Park from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Also on October 5th is Household Hazardous Waste Cleanup Day, and that will be held at the City Library West parking lot, utilizing Millsboro, the street in between the City Administration Center and the library. That will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. October 12th is Shred Day here at the City Administration Center, and that would be from 9 to noon. And then finally, we are planning on Fall Fest happening at Hap McLean Park on October 26th between 4 and 7 p.m. And then finally, us as staff, we'd like to thank and congratulate Ms. Toni Moorman on her retirement from the city. Toni's last day as our senior accountant will be October 4th. She has worked for Park City for nearly 6 years, and we wish her the very best going forward. That's it, Mayor.
Okay. George has a question, then I'll have some.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to have a boil water advisory? If so, is it going to be for parts affected by this or the whole city?
We are not anticipating that at this time, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just wondered, just for the public, I know we communicated to the council about the rating call. Can you just touch on that real quick?
The rating call, as we're going to go through tonight, getting ready for sale of bonds and temporary financing note, we did a rating call approximately 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago. Normally customary type questions: what's the economy? How's the outlook for the city look? The council, economics, everything. And very pleased, our staff, led by Dee, was very well prepared for the conversation. They didn't ask a question that I didn't think that we already had the answer for or was out of the blue, but we maintained our AA- rating, which is an extremely competitive rate for an organization in a city of our size. So very good rating call.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Sean? Not seeing any, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion? John?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
And Jim?
I second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And that motion passes 6-1. That brings us to item 7 under new business, which is consider bids, ordinances, and resolutions relating to the issuance of the 2019 B general obligation bonds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Larry Kleeman with Ranson Financial Group, the city's financial advisor. We did sell bonds and TIP notes today, basically to permanently finance infrastructure for the city. And you mentioned earlier the S&P rating. Sean mentioned how Dee did great on the call, but I was there in the room too. And Sean, for being fairly new here, actually was very well versed in all the goings on in the community, and I think impressed the folks at S&P as well. And so it's a much-deserved AA- rating. I handed out 2 bid summaries right before we sat down here. They should be on in front of you there. I'm looking at first the one that has the bonds in red at top. Bonds, page 1. This is the summary, the bid tab for the bonds. We had 7 very good bids today. All of them bid online, and the winning bid was over on the far right, Robert W. Baird and Company. When they bid, they put in interest rates for each of the maturities, and then at the very bottom, we take the average interest rate, what is called the net interest cost to the city, to find out which is the best bid. And you can see Baird there had the best bid at 2.2961% interest rate. It goes all the way up to about 2.7 from Bernardi. Rates, as you know, have been going down. We've been talking about this for the past few months, and started to tick up a little bit, but they're still very good rates for 15-year bonds. The next page lists the actual debt service on the bonds. Once again, these are paid for by special assessments. We've gone through the special assessment process over the past couple months, notified the property owners, and their levies will start either this year or next year. It's kind of half and half with these groups of developments. And so the debt service on the bond should totally be paid by the special assessments collected from the property owners. And the last page, just itemizing the costs. We issued $1,040,000 in bonds, and the bulk of that, of course, pays off your 2017-1 and 2018-1 TIP note, which was temporary financing for those infrastructure improvements. The bonds are scheduled to close or settle in about 2 weeks. That's when the money is wired to pay off the TIP notes, and then also the city gets its funds to pay the cost of issuance on the bonds. You have a couple documents before you to adopt the bonds, to approve the bonds tonight. Typically, it's 3 motions. 1 is to accept the best bid from Baird. Number 2 is to approve the bond ordinance. Number 3 is to approve the bond resolution. Garth with Gilmore and Bell is right behind me, the bond counsel. If you have any questions on the documents, and if you have any questions on the numbers, let me know.
All right. Is there any questions from the council? Is there a recommendation on the bonds 2019B GEO bond issue? Jim?
I don't have any questions, and so I would move that the bid from Robert W. Baird and Company, Inc. be accepted, and the mayor of Park City be authorized and directed to execute the bid, form selling the bonds to the best bidder on the basis of the bid and terms specified in the notice of bond sale.
Okay. Jim? I'm sorry. Tom?
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. And item B under 7, which is an ordinance issuing the 2019 B GEO bond. Jim?
I would move to approve ordinance 1075-2019, authorizing and providing for the issuance of the general obligation bond series 2019B of the city of Park City, Kansas, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal and interest on said bonds as they become due, authorizing certain other documents and actions in connection herewith, and making certain covenants with respect thereto.
And Brandy?
Second the motion.
Tom, did you have any follow-up comments?
I was going to second.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Dee, would you call the roll?
John and Hare.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey. Aye. Jim Schrader.
Aye.
And that resolution passes 7-0. And that brings us to item 7C, which is a resolution authorizing the sale of the 2019 B GEO bonds. Jim?
I'll finish this out. Okay. I move to approve resolution 1034-2019, prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing the sale of delivery of general obligation bonds. Sorry, my screen just jumped. Series 2019B of the City of Park City, Kansas, previously authorized by ordinance 75-2019 of the issuer making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith.
Okay. And John?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Dee, would you call the roll?
John and Hare.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Salcetta. Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Brandy Bailey. Aye. Jim Schrader.
Aye.
And that resolution passes 7-0. Thank you, Jim. That brings us to item 8, which is consider bids and resolutions related to the issuance of the 2019-1 temporary note.
Yes, we did also accept bids on the temp notes today, and this is for street water, sewer improvements, as well as the 61st Street Bridge improvement. This is temporary financing, which will eventually be taken out with bonds. We did get one bid today, which is a little surprising. We had interest from about 5 other underwriters, and we received one bid from Oppenheimer, which is on the notes page that I handed out, notes page 1 at the top. One of the reasons, maybe very few bids on this, is there are a number of other sales around the nation. The winning bidder for the bonds, Baird, told us that they actually had just bought 9 or 10 other bonds this morning as well, so I think there was a lot of activity out there today. The winning bid from Oppenheimer had a coupon rate of 2.25%, and originally we solicited bids for a temp note in the amount of $3,325,000, and we built in a little bit of underwriter profit. It's typical for us to do that to attract bidders. This bidder did not utilize all that profit, so we were able to downsize the temp note a bit, about $25,000, to a straight $3,300,000. So that's why you see that on the front cover there. This is a 4-year temp note, callable after 1 year. 3-year temp note. The debt service schedule is on page 2 at 2.25%, payable semi-annually. And the interest on this has been capitalized or built in to the temp note issue, so it won't affect your budget at all while it's outstanding. And the very last page, page 3, just itemizes the funds. Again, we had calculated a little over $3 million going toward the project costs, and the additional funds are for capitalized interest and to pay the cost of issuance. This, too, will close at the same time as the bonds, about October 15th, I believe. That's when the money will be wired to the city. To approve this temp note, it's 2 motions this time. One, to accept the best bid from Oppenheimer, and the second bid is just the temp note resolution.
Okay, Brandy?
I'll make a motion to accept the bid from Oppenheimer and have the mayor and city clerk be authorized, directed to execute the bid from selling the notes to the best bidder on the basis of bid and terms specified in the notice of note sale.
And John?
Second.
Okay, Tom, did you have any comments? Okay. We got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. With all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. And that brings us to item B on there, which is a resolution authorizing the issuance of the 2019-1 temp note. John?
I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 1035-2019, authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2019-1 of the City of Park City, Kansas, providing for and levying and collection of an annual tax, if necessary, for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said notes, and that as they become due, making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith.
And Tom? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. Dee, would you call the roll?
John O'Hare.
Aye.
George Glover.
Aye.
Ben Salcetta. Melvin Kerr.
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps. Randy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
And that resolution passes 7-0. Thank you, Brandy and John. That brings us to item 9, which is discuss and consider approval of the Waukene Addition final plat located at 4709 North Hydraulic. Sean?
Yes, sir. Winkley Properties LLC, the owner of the property located at 4709 North Hydraulic, and his agent Kirk Miller Engineering are requesting approval of a one-step final plat. Mr. Winkley would like to develop that area, which is currently zoned I-1 Light Industrial, with a warehouse and office uses. The plat is creating a single lot and dedicating an additional 10 feet of right-of-way along Hydraulic. On September 16th, 2019, the Park City Planning Commission approved the final plat. It says in your packet 5-0, but we're going back and reviewing the notes in the minutes. It was actually approved 4-0, subject to the conditions below. There is no identifiable cost to the city in approving the plat, and staff recommends approval, subject to the conditions listed on the staff summary sheet, which are about 10. Your packet should contain a picture of the property location, an overhead, as well as an aerial exhibit. South hydraulic just north of 45th Street on the west side of the road. Pending any questions, that's all I have, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Is there a recommendation from the council? Brandy.
I move to approve the Winkley Edition A1 step final plat for property located at 4709 North Hydraulic, subject to the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall submit a title report per Article 5-101 R1 to the city. 2, the applicant shall submit a drainage plan per Article 5-101 R2 to the city. 3, the plat shall provide a 35-foot building setback line along Hydraulic Avenue. 4, the plat shall provide a 20-foot drainage and utility easement along Hydraulic Avenue. 5, the plat shall show the dedication of complete access control along Hydraulic Avenue except for 2 openings. 6, the quarter section, township range designation needs to be added under the title of the plat. 7, a certificate for the city attorney needs to be added to the final plat. 8, within the Planning Commission certificate, the name of the subdivision needs to be corrected. 9, city clerk's name needs to be revised to read Deanne Grender. 10, any utility relocation required as part of the development of the subject property shall be the responsibility of the landowner.
Okay. Jim?
I second that.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Brandy. That brings us to item 10, which is discuss and consider an ordinance prohibiting the construction activities during certain hours. Doug?
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance that you saw at the last meeting, and the council had some significant questions and concerns about the way that was drawn up, and this ordinance in front of you this evening, I think addresses all those concerns. Let me kind of run through those real quickly. In the first subsection there, subsection A, the very last clause limits the applicability of this limitation to construction activities that are conducted for compensation. There was some concern about some contractor maybe helping somebody out, and so that would not apply the way I have redrawn subsection A. In subsection B, there are 2 changes of note. In the definition of construction activities, that has been expanded to include activities in preparation for construction, alteration, repair, reconstruction, since those could also be, under certain circumstances, disturbing and to residential neighborhoods. And then down at the bottom, the last sentence accepts from the prohibition any activities conducted wholly within an indoor space. That was another concern from last week, and that's where that's addressed. And then finally, subsection F makes it clear that anybody who is an owner or occupant of a structure who is performing work themselves on such a structure is exempt from the prohibition in subsection A of the ordinance. And I think those answered the concerns that the council members had last time. So if that's the case, I would recommend adoption of the ordinance. I'd be glad to also answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Brandy?
How will the contractors be notified of this? Will it be put on the permit when they get the permit so that way they know it's the change?
That is correct. Each time that a contractor comes in for a building permit, we notify them of what the ordinances and regulations are that they have to, as well as if a contractor is going to be doing work in the city, they have to obtain a city license, and we will make certain that they're notified about that at the same time.
Okay. George?
Well, you know, anytime we pass an ordinance like this, we're going to discriminate against someone. I know in a town like Park City, there's a lot of shift workers, and the only people this is giving relief to is those who work daytime. I know I worked third shift and second shift for a long time when I was on the department, and more than once I had to call my mother and say, can I come down there and sleep, because they were roofing or something close to me. But anytime you pass a law like this, or ordinance like this, you're going to discriminate against a certain element, because there's a lot of shift workers in this town, and that's not going to help them. It's the only benefit to this is to those who, like I, are retired, or those who work days. So forget the guys that work second and third. So that's just my observation on it. I think it's a little discriminatory in its wording.
Jim?
I respect what George is saying, and I'm like, but this is a good start, and I don't know how you. I felt like this was a really good place to start, and we addressed all the concerns I had with it, so I'm okay with this.
John?
So I like it too. And my question, I guess I have, or I'd like you to clarify for me, is this prohibited on Sunday or any government recognized holiday, and other than during the hours of 7 a.m. to sunset on Monday through Saturday? That's just a little cloudy for me. So you can't work on a government holiday and you can't work on a Sunday. You understand what
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that real well. You said can't for both of them?
You cannot work on a Sunday and you cannot work on any government holiday?
That's correct.
That's the only part I'm not crazy about. Especially the holiday. I just feel like a lot of people that are working a small business work a lot on both days of the weekend. I mean, if it rains Monday through Friday, they're working Saturday, Sunday, and holidays too. I think Doug did a great job on all this. That's just my other part, which I like the fact that he presented it. We have to come to a decision on it, but I just ask that we take, especially like 4th of July, out of it. I mean, the festivities that go on the 4th of July are going to go out of the most construction. Anyway, that's where I'm at. Thank you, Doug, for your work on that. You did a good job.
Well, the focus, I mean, I understand your point, but the focus here really is not on the construction trade. It's really on residential citizens of the city. And so on holidays, like George's point, the thinking is they're home, they're sleeping in late. Same on Sundays for the most part. So, you know, the way this is written, if you're going to restrict the activities, the focus is on restricting them for the benefit of the citizens, as opposed to in a way that doesn't infringe upon construction people. So clearly this infringes on the activities of people engaged in construction for profit. I mean, there's no other way around it. So I don't know how to address that, other than if there's a feeling that we don't want government holidays, I can strike that. But it's been written now, in my opinion, to be not all that restrictive, not all that protective of our citizens. And you know, my recommendation would be, I don't know that we should go any further. I think it's about pared down as far as it should be for the citizenry. I understand that falls on the construction trade.
You're saying you're protecting the people that live next door to the house under construction. That's what you're meaning.
Well, that's the whole purpose of the ordinance. The ordinance is an ordinance there's no good reason to restrict construction activity unless it has some kind of a generally negative impact on people in the city. Right. So the focus in drawing up the ordinance is focusing on those persons in the city that are going to be disturbed by construction activities, the exceptions that we just went through that were brought up last time, and they've been changed, all take away from the protection from the citizens and give it back to construction activity.
I understand.
So
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think if we whittle it down anymore, we probably just need to kick it and not pass it. But the only reason that this has come up and that we brought this is because this is a hot item that we get phone calls for at the administration office on a regular basis about construction. And typically it's in new home construction, a new neighborhood where 4 houses might be going in the ground at the same time between a row of completed houses, and that's where the kind of the tussle is. So I almost think at this point either you decide not to do anything and just drop it, and we just say we're not going to do anything to try to, help those people, or you pass this and it provides a little relief or something to come back and give some folks some rest. Brandy?
So last meeting and this meeting, I've heard the holiday 4th of July thrown out. So what if we look at this and maybe just strike out summer holidays? I mean, then what, that only really considers 4th of July? Is there another summer holiday? Labor Day, maybe?
Labor Day and Memorial Day.
I just thought.
Okay. Tom?
I was going to say the only thing I think of is in summertime, roofers are the ones that make the noise. And they also start to work at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I could see restricting them to 7, but allow them to work from 7 to 5 or 7, whatever, during the summer on holiday, because a lot of times they are working around the rain and stuff, or they're behind and they're trying to catch up. I mean, there's a lot of things there. They're not building a house or re-roofing a house somewhere in town that needs a new roof, so we're going to be restricting those guys. They won't be coming in on a holiday weekend and catching up.
Okay, I got a couple of things to point out here. One, typically we're not fielding any phone calls for a random house in a neighborhood that's getting roughed, because honestly, roofers are quick. And usually a roof is torn off and replaced in one day. Another aspect that you could look about this as far as restricting some of this activity on the holidays, how many roofing companies come in and do work on the weekends and don't pull permits because they don't think anybody's going to be out checking on it. So this could be another avenue where you're hoping enforcing permits because you can't be working on them. And we do have those companies that tend to come in and just throw something on the weekend. They're not getting inspections done and they're not pulling permits. Sean, did you have something?
I'm satisfied with it. I think Doug gave a good explanation. I think it's a good start to hopefully kind of solve part of the problem that we've had with it. And I would make a motion that we approve this ordinance as presented. Getting back to the top to see if there's more.
Okay, is there a second for discussion, Brandy?
I just second it.
Okay, Sean?
You need me to read it? I'll make a motion. We approve ordinance number 1076-2019, creating section 5-1101 of the Municipal Code of Park City, Kansas, pertaining to limitations on construction activities during certain hours when in close proximity to residential areas.
Okay, Sean?
Mayor, I was just going to, he had already indicated Doug's words were very eloquent. And the reason why, yes, sir, you are correct that every time you write an ordinance, there's going to be unintended consequences, and it's never going to address 100% of the situation. The focus of this ordinance is to provide that protection to the vast majority. I applaud council for being very friendly to contractors and wanting to look forward and progressing. But the reason for the ordinance is primarily the vast majority of the people are the ones that over the holiday weekends, over on Sundays, that's their quiet time with their family. That's the time that they would like to. So they just like to have a little bit of protection. We feel phone calls all the time. Roofers back in this neighborhood over here are getting started at 6 o'clock in the morning. I get it. If I was a roofer, I'd be out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, get my job done and be done and over with. But if that's the one and your kids, it's summertime and your kids are sleeping in and yet you got roofers at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's a little bit problematic. So the ordinance is supposed to address the 85% of the people that are normal daytime hours. It's not going to help second shift or third shift. But that's, again, the focus is to reach the vast majority.
Okay. George?
Well, I'll probably support this ordinance. The thing I was pointing out is we want to make sure that we don't, when we go after stuff like this, and we just don't zero in on something and develop tunnel vision, we have to realize that for every action, there's a reaction. You're protecting a certain amount, but I'm one of these people that worked a lot of third shifts and second shifts when I worked for this department, and I know what it felt like to be. It was hard to sleep. There was nights I worked third shift there where I was tired because I didn't get to sleep during the day. But I just pointing out that we need to be careful and not get tunnel vision when we're doing this. But I'll probably support this.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. Dee, would you call the roll?
John Linear.
Aye.
George Glover.
Nay.
Ken Salcetta. Melvin Kerr.
Nay.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps.
Aye.
Randy Bailey.
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
Okay. And that motion passes 5-2. And that will bring us to governing body remarks, and we'll start with Jim.
Hey, just transitioning here on a similar subject, I've often wondered about a noise ordinance. And the reason I bring this up is I literally just this morning had a citizen tell me that his neighbor was mowing his lawn with a flashlight at 9:45 in the evening, which was this time of year clearly after dark. This wouldn't address that. You know, I can remember 15 years ago, my wife and I getting woke up at 5:30 every morning by barking dogs. So I don't know. I would like to maybe explore the idea. I'm tossing it out there. I'm not sure how you make a noise ordinance work, but something to think about while we're on a similar subject here. But that's really all I have tonight.
Doug, do we have something on the books for that?
There's something in the works, yes.
I was thinking we already had something that exists.
Well, we have something on the books, but it's not as enforceable as it should be for our code enforcement people. We have decibel, they're able to go out and register sound, but we really don't have an ordinance in time that establishes unacceptable levels in certain areas of town, residential, industrial, commercial. And I'm not sure it would address Jim's concern right now, but what I'm working on would be much more comprehensive, much more objective as far as just measuring decibel levels. And if you're over it, and you're in violation. And so hopefully that'll be in front of you before the end of the year, maybe within another 2 or 3 meetings.
Okay. Thank you.
It's like John mentioned at the last meeting, if we were all just neighborly, none of this would be an issue.
That's right. And eliminate half of our code.
Yeah.
Tom?
Well, I've just got one question on the ordinance that we're talking about, and that if you have a construction area that's a new development, there's no housing in, there's nobody living there or anything else, and they're out working, is this ordinance is going to apply there too, even if it's away from the rest of the city?
No, subsection C talks about it being within 100 feet of a residential area.
Oh,
That's the only time that it applies.
Okay. I saw that, but I didn't know how to officially apply it. Okay.
Randy?
I have nothing.
George?
Well, I go back to, I think as a council, we need to be very careful about banning things. I know in the past we've banned certain pigs, but we've allowed certain pigs. And we've allowed chickens, but we've banned roosters. You get to thinking about it. In this crazy world we live in, I'm surprised some attorney hadn't walked in here and filed a discrimination suit in favor of the rooster, because it's a crazy world we're living in, and we're banning stuff, and you know, I guess it's a little bit of a libertarian in me. You know, I think as a government we can get just a little bit too far into people's private life. I know I can't help but go back to the young lady who came in here with the 4-H and wanted to have her pygmy goats. And we wouldn't let her do that. Here we had a young lady who, for her 4-H in school, wanted to have her pygmy goats. And we denied her that. You know, I think we ought to be encouraging young people to do things like that. But we didn't. And I just think we ought to be pretty cautious when we start banning certain things. I think we really ought to take a good hard look at them. Just my thoughts.
Tom?
The only thing I got tonight is November the 9th, Sedgwick County Associations of Cities will be having a meeting here. I'd like to give everybody enough advance notice if you can show. Subject's going to be mental health. They're going to bring a bunch of people. Sheriff's going to be here talking. DA's probably going to be here. He hasn't accepted yet, but he's been asked. There's several mental health directors that work in the Sedgwick County area that will be out here, and I think the van's going to be here that they use. So it'll be an opportunity that we can come out and get some knowledge. So I'll give everybody a heads up. And Sean may have more information on that. I know he's conversing back and forth. So,
Melvin? George?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Sean for his information he gave us this morning on the water leaks, kind of keep us posted. I appreciate that, Sean, keeping us updated. Our Fall Fest coming up on October the 26th. This is our last community event for the season. So Fall Fest is a big deal in Park City. We have a lot of activities going on, a lot of things going on. ARAC ride, we have a costume contest, we have s'mores, we have all kind of stuff. So I think we've been averaging 400 to 500 people, so folks come on out to that. This is Hap McLean Park, and it's what, 4 to 7, Sean? Is that what you said? 4 to 7, so everybody come out and enjoy that last community hurrah of the year in Park City. Thank you.
Okay, John?
I have nothing. I would make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay. And Brandy?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes 7-0. Thank you.